Wayne. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Returned Morning Update live on NTN. We'd like to thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching on air, online, a special good morning to you. I mean, we're getting a little bit of feedback. If you can just bring down the volume of the monitor, thank you. Today is Wednesday, the 28th of July 2021, and it has been quite an eventful period for St. Lucia in the past week, the lead up to the general election, which was held on Monday, the 26th of July 2021. And the outcome of that being the St. Lucia Labour Party being successful at that national exercise, as you, I hope, would be aware by now. So what is happening today is the swearing-in ceremony for the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, and that will be happening at the Government House on the morn, swearing-in ceremony of the leader of the political organization, St. Lucia Labour Party, Mr. Philip Joseph Pierre. We have that update coming for you later on in the program. For about 30 minutes or so, we'll be talking about that, as well as the outcome of the general elections overall and some other updates coming out of the government of St. Lucia. So please stay tuned. If you're just joining us, good morning to you. My name is Jessie Leonce. We know that there has been much celebration, much jubilation, a lot of Lucasade and other energy drinks coming off of the shelves as people try to come back to some sense of normalcy. We do hope that despite this, that we do not feel, have any fallout in terms of COVID-19, for which we have an update also coming out of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. So stay tuned for those updates and more coming up directly after this break.
We can win this war. Get vaccinated. We're taking our life back. Get vaccinated. We know what to do. Get vaccinated. COVID-19 we won't lose to you. Oh no. Take 2 doses, take our life back. Time for a brand new day. Take 2 doses, take our life back. To live and work and play. Take 2 doses, take our life back. The health experts we trust. Take 2 doses, take our life back. Vaccinate for you, for yours, for us.
Let's take our life back with a safe and effective AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. The mobile vaccination drive is coming to you. Visit the Ministry of Health and Wellness and Bureau of Health Education Facebook pages for more information. Let's take our life back. Vaccinate for you, for yours, for us.
Get vaccinated.
This message is brought to you by the Bureau of Health Education of the Ministry of Health and Wellness and this station.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. For those of you just joining us on air, online, I mean, all eyes have been on St. Lucia since we've had the general election, the outcome being the Prime Minister-elect Philip Joseph Pierre emerging as lead with his party, the St. Lucia Labour Party. The swearing-in ceremony will be held for the Prime Minister will be held later on today at Government House, and we invite you to tune in to NTN. It will be happening live at 4 p.m. We remind you it will be happening live at 4 p.m. so tune in to NTN, also Choice TV and Liberty FM. So if you're on the road, you can tune into Liberty FM via your radio station, or on Choice TV if you have your mobile phones with you, so that you can be part or be witness to this yet another historic moment here in St. Lucia. Backpedaling to what was this past week, the St. Lucia Labour Party won the general elections on Ireland in what can be described as a landslide victory under the leadership of Philip J. Pierre, Prime Minister designate of St. Lucia. The preliminary results declared the St. Lucia Labour Party winning 13 seats, the United Workers' Party winning 2 seats, and 2 seats going to independent candidates in the persons of Stephenson King and Richard Frederick. So just to give you a rundown of these seats, we have the Prime Minister-elect being re-elected in the constituency of Castries East, and I think this coming election, if he serves his full term for the 5-year period, would make it 30 years that he has been representing that constituency. We also have for the constituency of Gros-Islet being elected Mr. Kenson Casimir for that constituency. Also, we have in the constituency of, just getting this together, in the constituency of Soufrière-Fonsac, we have Miss Emma Hippolyte. For the constituency of Micoud North, we have Jeremiah Norbert. We have in the constituency of Ancillary Canneries, Wayne Gerard. Mr. Joachim Henry has been, former senator, has been elected to represent the constituency of Castries Southeast. We also have a former Prime Minister and a member of Parliament for, I believe, some 25 years now also, Mr. Stevenson King. He has been re-elected to represent Castries North. And for Vieux Fort South, we have Dr. Kenny Anthony, former Prime Minister, representing that constituency as well, elected to represent there. Sean Edward, former government minister and also parliamentarian for the Dennery North constituency, re-elected. Bradley Felix, re-elected for the constituency of Chazelle, and he is one of two candidates from the United Workers' Party that was successful at the polls. We also have Alva Batiste from the constituency representing the constituency of Labrie, again re-elected. In the constituency of Babonneau, we're seeing a newcomer as like Mr. Wayne Gerard and Jeremiah Norbert. We have Virginia Albert Poyot. The second candidate that was successful at the polls from the United Workers' Party being Mr. Alan Chasney. He will be representing Micoud South again. He's been re-elected. We also have Mr. Ernest Hilaire, who has represented St. Lucia on several platforms, primarily Parliament in the last term, has been re-elected to represent Castries South. We also have Mr. Albert Prosper, another newcomer representing under the SLP banner, elected to represent Dennery South. And for Vieux Fort North, we have Moses Jean-Baptiste. He has been re-elected. And for Castries Central, we have the independent, the second of two independents who've been re-elected. Who's been elected, Castries Central, Mr. Richard Frederick, of course. He did represent that constituency previously prior to the incoming of the previous representative, Sarah Flood-Bobra. So we would like to congratulate all of the candidates who participated in this year's general election. We saw the emergence of, I dare say, a very organized third party in the National Green Party. And they did manage to garner quite a few votes. And also congratulations going out to the two parties in the main, the United Workers' Party and the St. Lucia Labour Party. It has been quite an effort in terms of the campaign that has been ongoing for quite some time, well before the announcement by then Prime Minister Honorable Alan Chasney. But we want to commend everyone on the outcome. We want to commend those who have been successful at this year's polls. And coming forward, we just want to remind you of the swearing-in ceremony for the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, the new Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Philip Joseph Pierre, a native of Castries East, and he will be sworn in later on today, 4 p.m. We invite as many persons to tune in as possible. It will be aired live on NTN, NBC, Choice TV, Rhythm FM, and I'm sure other television stations, radio stations will be taking a feed so that their viewership can join in this, witnessing this momentous occasion as well. So Mr. Philip J. Pierre will be sworn in as Prime Minister of St. Lucia later on today. Please tune in for this occasion. We continue with our updates this morning, just coming off of the observance, the observer mission from the Organization of American States. A chief of the observer mission, Miss Mary Carmen Plata, she did issue a statement of congratulations to the people of St. Lucia on their strong civic commitment displayed in the general elections, and presented the preliminary results report, of the OAS EOM, that is the Electoral Observer Mission, to St. Lucia. Their report on what they saw, what they witnessed, and not only with just the general election itself in terms of the processes involved with the electoral process, but also taking into consideration COVID-19. So, and I want to go to this statement coming from Ms. Plata, congratulating St. Lucians on their strong civic commitment, as well as the general elections, in the general elections, and also presenting the preliminary report.
Dear citizens of St. Lucia, on behalf of the Electoral Observation Mission of the Organization of American States here in St. Lucia, I congratulate you on your strong civic commitment, which was amply displayed during the advance poll on July 23rd and on Election Day, July 26th. We also commend the Electoral Commission and Department, including all poll workers and supervisory and security personnel, for their commitment and hard work in delivering the 2021 electoral process. The mission was comprised of 12 experts from 10 countries, all of whom were present here in the country. On Friday, July 23rd, we observed the conduct of the advance poll for members of the police force, the correctional facility, fire service officers, election officials, and poll workers, patients at 3 hospitals, and persons at 2 care facilities. The mission also engaged in substantive analysis of critical aspects of the electoral process, including electoral organization and technology, electoral registries, political financing, and political participation of women. On Election Day, we were present here in St. Lucia's 17 constituencies and observed the process from the opening of the polling stations to the tallying and transmission of preliminary results. Members of the mission visited 227 polling stations in 64 polling divisions during the day and reported that the process was conducted in a well-organized and peaceful manner. The mission notes that a significant majority of women served as poll workers and party representatives and applauds their work and commitments to supporting democracy in St. Lucia. The findings of the mission, along with recommendations aimed at strengthening the democratic processes in St. Lucia, are contained in this preliminary report presented today. A detailed report, which expands on the mission's observations and recommendations, will be presented at the OAS Permanent Council in Washington, D.C., and shared with all stakeholders in St. Lucia. On behalf of the mission, I wish to thank the Government of St. Lucia, the Electoral Commission and Department, the Ministry of External Affairs, the stakeholders with whom we met, and all citizens for their willingness to share their perspectives on the different aspects of the electoral process. These discussions contributed immensely to the successful completion of our mission's work. The mission is also grateful to the governments of Dominican Republic, France, Korea, Italy, Peru, and the United States for their financial contributions, which made this deployment possible. Thank you very much.
Congratulatory messages there from the chief of the OAS Electoral Observation Mission for the general elections of the 26th July national exercise here in St. Lucia. We also got word from the CARICOM Observer Mission. The CARICOM Election Observation Mission wishes to thank all stakeholders, including the leaders of the political parties, civil society, the media, and the people of St. Lucia for their warm welcome and cooperation, which contributed to the success of the mission. So they have indicated that they will be presenting a full independent report, and that will be prepared by the chief of that mission for submission to the Secretary General of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, His Excellency Erin LaRocque. And just on basic observations, they did give some insight, however, much similar to the chief of the OAS mission, indicating that from their observations, the polls were opened in a timely manner. I know that there was a query by journalist Earl Bousquet as to perhaps why the polling stations were opened at 6 and not 6:30 a.m. But there is indication that the observers were satisfied with the time that the polling stations were open. They were open in a timely manner according to CARICOM, the CARICOM mission. In the majority of the polling districts, all the stations observed were fully staffed, and most had at least 4 polling agents present representing the 2 major political parties. that contested the general election. Most polling stations were conveniently located and easily accessible to the voters, though in some instances there were some accessibility challenges for the disabled, the elderly, and infirm. And we did see that during the course of the day, many persons needed assistance. If I could just call out one of the polling stations, you had the Mondador Primary School, where some of the invalid, they would have had to be carried up the stairs to go and cast their ballots. The mission observed, that is the CARICOM Election Observation Mission, they observed that there was an adequate supply of the required voting material which arrived promptly to facilitate the opening of the polls. Adequate police security, they spoke about that. They said there was adequate police security being in place at all locations, with officials conducting their duties in a professional and efficient manner. They also indicated that this contributed to a level of calm which accompanied the day's activities. However, a higher level of police participation could have been engaged in maintaining social distancing among electors in the queues. And we also saw that happening in places like, for instance, the Corinth Secondary School, where people, the queue was bunched up. People just had no regard for observing the physical distancing as per the COVID-19 protocols. Just to continue on with their observations, their initial observations, the poll workers were focused, and that is something that we can say that the poll workers who were on duty on Monday, they were focused, they were on mission, as they steadily carried out the required procedures, thereby ensuring that all eligible electors who turned out to vote were able to do so. And their efforts to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols and sanitize the polling stations after each elector voted is also commendable. I was witness to that. You know, every time somebody came to cast their ballot, to go in the booth, the place was properly sanitized, and also thereby reducing the risk of transmission, if any, of COVID-19, the COVID-19 virus. Now, the initial assessment of election day activities by the CARICOM Election Observation Mission is that the voters were able to cast their ballots without intimidation or fear, and that the results of the July 26th general election in St. Lucia reflect the will of the people on island. The mission extends its appreciation to the Department of External Affairs for its assistance and congratulates the staff of the Electoral Commission as well, the poll workers, the political parties and their candidates, the security forces, and the people of St. Lucia on the level of maturity that was displayed in the peaceful execution of the election day activities. So that's the word there from the CARICOM Election Observation Mission coming into St. Lucia to witness this national exercise and ensuring that everything seemed well and in order. Again, congratulations to the successful, the individuals who were successful at the polls, and I think this is adding even more credence to the outcome of the general election held on Monday. Word from the CARICOM Election Observation Mission, also the Organization of American States, their election observation mission here in St. Lucia. Commendation across the board for the level of participation, commitment to civic duty, and just overall commendation of all of the roles that were played on this very important day and also in the days leading up to the general election. We continue with updates coming out of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. We have a new government, a new administration coming in, but the COVID-19 situation remains and it continues to be a threat to our population. We remind you that St. Lucia is not yet fully immune. We don't have full immunity to the COVID-19 virus. And as a result, we need to be taking precautions. We're continuing to see a registration of new cases. We're hearing from the Ministry of Health and Wellness of 13 new cases of COVID-19 during the period July 23rd to July 25th. And that is the latest word coming out from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Over the course of the weekend, July 23rd to the 25th, a total of 484 COVID-19 tests were conducted at the Ezra Long Lab. And from these samples, the Ministry of Health and Wellness received confirmation of 13 new cases of COVID-19. So on the 23rd, there were 4 positives coming out of a batch of 141 samples. And 2 positives came out on the 24th out of a batch of 173 samples. And on the 25th, we had 7 positives coming out of a batch of 170 samples. All of these individuals were seen at various community respiratory clinics where they were assessed and tested for COVID-19. Now, in keeping with the COVID-19 testing protocol, these individuals were placed in home quarantine by healthcare practitioners while awaiting the return of their test results. Arrangements have since been made to place these individuals into isolation for care. And meantime, the contact tracing for these individuals these new cases is currently underway. Over this period of time, the Ministry of Health also received confirmation of the recovery of 24 individuals diagnosed with COVID-19. And this brings the total number of active cases currently recorded in country to date to 93. Presently, 2 of the active cases are requiring critical care at the respiratory clinic. The new cases bring the total number of cases diagnosed in country to date to 5,529. The Ministry of Health, as usual, continues to encourage persons to get vaccinated, adhere to the COVID-19 protocols. As of the 23rd of July 2021, a total of 32,001 individuals received their first dose of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and 23,938 individuals received the second dose of the vaccine. So Tuesday, that was yesterday, we had the health team administering COVID-19 vaccines at the Grosselet Human Resource Center and the Philip Marsley grounds. And people can also access the COVID-19 vaccines, that is the Oxford AstraZeneca, at any one of the wellness centers around the island. You could just call or walk in and let them know that you are interested in getting vaccinated so that they can accommodate you. The COVID-19 vaccination drive is catering to the general population. So if you're 18 years and older, that's what they mean by general population. You can get your first dose, and as well as individuals who are due for their second dose, you can also get vaccinated. The Ministry of Health continues to emphasize on the importance of practicing the infection prevention and control measures. And we all know what that is by now. I need not go over it. We hope everybody has a fair understanding, even under election campaign circumstances, celebratory circumstances. You remember that when you go home, you're going back home after the celebration, the jubilation, the motorcade, the fetting over having been successful at the election, that you are able to return home safe and sound to your family. Because now is really, we're coming back into normal, regular St. Lucia after the 26th of July. And part of that is the extraordinary situation that is the pandemic. So please take note. We continue with our updates this morning. Time is running out, but I just want to give you as much information as possible. British Airways, and that is from a tourism standpoint, we have British Airways reintroducing service to St. Lucia from Heathrow. Now, the weekly service from London Heathrow, it ends from September 4th, but it has been reintroduced. St. Lucia has added another gateway to the destination with the reintroduction of service with British Airways out of London Heathrow, and that's after more than 30 years, well before I was born. The Boeing 777 touched down on Saturday, July 24th, 2021 at approximately 5:45 p.m. with a total capacity of 173, most of which are visitors. Thankfully so, the effort continues on the part of the St. Lucia Tourism Authority, the Ministry of Tourism, to bring tourism, resuscitate that sector really, because we're coming off of the effects of the COVID-19 situation. Tourism all but flattened, and we're seeing the slow and steady return of tourism in its various forms, cruise, air. These things are coming back. They're coming to come, I should say. Out of Gatwick, we had St. Lucia welcoming weekly service with a TUI, 4 flights per week with British Airways. And the UK is typically St. Lucia's second largest tourism market, and thus far, year to year to date reflects a 4% growth, and that's the word we received from the public relations manager out of the St. Lucia Tourism Authority. We have 13 crew members led by Captain Peter Williams joining officials of the St. Lucia Tourism Authority to receive a commemorative plaque that depicts the iconic twin pitons, niche markets and surprise welcome packages. 2 lucky passengers were also gifted on arrival. Of course, St. Lucia is demonstrating its gratitude for the resumption of business in these many forms. And we did hear from the PR manager at SLTA indicating, that is Ms. Joreen Georges, that this newly introduced weekly service from Heathrow comes at an opportune time when St. Lucia is drumming up even more support for an already exciting summer and the upcoming peak winter period. And this also signals continued progress toward the full recovery of the tourism sector. And she did add that the British Airways service from Heathrow will end on September 4th, but we're definitely looking forward to the airlift that is coming into St. Lucia, the first of which was mostly visitors to our island. Of course, there have been measures put in place to ensure that via air or sea that our visitors coming are able to, whatever their status, special accommodation is made to them to continue to protect the population here on the ground. Well, we're wrapping up our updates for the morning. I'd like to thank you so much for watching, just keeping abreast as to what's happening, what's coming out of the government of St. Lucia, the developments in terms of our resuscitation of several sectors coming off of the effects of the pandemic in the past year. It's been a tough year, but we have seen many efforts to revive sectors, to bring St. Lucia back to normalcy, and there is definitely, if I could speak on behalf of the entire population, a look forward to see what the direction is of this new administration to help us tide this recovery coming off of this pandemic. So please continue to stay tuned to NTN. Wayne, if you could just put up that card again to let persons know where they can watch the live swearing-in ceremony of the Prime Minister, the new Prime Minister, following the general elections held on the 26th of July this month. There's 26th of July, being sworn in this afternoon at Government House, 4 p.m. It will be aired on Choice TV, well, first of all, NTN, Choice TV, MBC, and also Rhythm FM if you're on the go. So you can be part of, you can witness this momentous occasion. A native of Castries East, Marsha, more specifically, being sworn in as St. Lucia's new Prime Minister. My name is Jessie Leon, signing off for now. Do enjoy the rest of your day. I will be headed over to Government House for the coverage, and we do hope that you could join us as we bring you this package, the swearing-in ceremony, and hopefully we could get some of the words from the successful candidates from the St. Lucia Labour Party, as well as hearing from the new Prime Minister on this appointment, I should say. So definitely looking forward to what is to transpire later on this afternoon. We hope you can tune in, keep safe, continue adhering to the protocols. Things have changed, but there's a lot of things that remain the same. And we're talking COVID-19, we're talking about our recovery process, we're talking about the resuscitation of certain sectors, of course also looking at other aspects like our education, considerations for employment. A lot of these things are on the table, continue to be on the table as we go into this new space. So please, above all, in terms of this pandemic, we hope you can go out there, continue to adhere to the protocols. They remain in effect. The election-specific, campaign-specific protocols, they no longer apply, but we have the broader, overarching COVID-19 protocols, national COVID-19 protocols, by which we hope you are being guided, you are adhering to a day in and day out. Jessie Leon signing off. Do stay tuned to NTN for more programming throughout the day, most importantly, 4 p.m. Goodbye. Keep safe.